The baby formula shortage should be a reminder as to why prepping is just so important right now. Understand this shortage is happening across the country, affecting millions of families who suddenly can't feed their baby, which creates a level of desperation that both you and I have probably never experienced. And understand that when this happens, people are not prepared for it, because here in the United States, no one could really fathom the idea of not being able to go to the grocery store and get baby formula. It's something critical and that parents need, yet all of a sudden it's gone. And it's all due to one additional factor on top of a very broken supply chain. I recently went to my grocery store, went to the baby formula aisle just to see what it was like, and it's relatively empty, and there was a notice right there about the recall. This recall is the additional factor that wrecked the current supply. This recall came from Abbott Laboratories, and basically they had contaminated product that led to the deaths of 4 children and got a lot of others sick as well. So all it took was one recall to suddenly get rid of one of the most important things that we have here in this country, which is the ability to feed our children. And that's going to create a lot of issues if it doesn't get resolved quickly. And unfortunately, it's not something that can be resolved very quickly. Right now, out of stock rates for baby formula is between 30 and 40% between all major retailers. Now, here in the United States, we are very comfortable in many ways, but we have to take a look at this baby formula shortage and understand what this could mean to us when it comes to any other basic good or commodity that we need to survive on a daily basis. This could happen to just about anything, and this is what we need to learn from this whole formula crisis, okay? It was caused by inflation, it was caused by the cost of shipping, it was caused by the supply chain issues we've already been dealing with, and it was caused by this recall, and that could happen to anything else that's extremely important. This whole thing is expected to actually get worse as long as conditions persist that led to it to begin with, and these conditions will likely persist because the supply chain, as you know, is very broken. Now, limits are being put into place all over the country, and it's actually being put into place by the FDA, who's requesting it from these major retailers in order to make sure people have access to this product. It's very important that people have it. Of course, if everyone buys all the baby formula they can find, someone else's baby might literally starve. And before you get all worked up about alternatives and what one baby can do and another baby can't or whatever else, understand that everybody's individual situation is complex and complicated, and they might require this formula or they might die. Keep that in mind, okay? This is based on a lot of different factors that you might not be aware of. So yes, people do need this formula for their children, okay? How does this get fixed? Not easily, but first and foremost, what have you learned so far? Well, this is a problem that happened very quickly and all due to one additional recall on top of the already strained supply chain. And 2, that the FDA might step in at any point in time and put limitations on how much somebody can buy of a certain product based on its demand and its supply. Okay, this could happen to anything, especially things that you need to survive. Like some babies need formula to survive. Well, maybe you need, I don't know, certain medication to survive. Well, one of the ways this whole thing can be fixed is by bringing more manufacturing back to the United States. Right now, there's about 10 large suppliers around the world of baby formula, and only 3 of them are in the United States. Now apply that to medicine and understand that medicine is mostly imported from overseas. And if you need medicine to survive, if it ever has a run or a recall of some kind that creates a shortage, the FDA might step in and say you can only get this much of it, or you can only get this much, vitamins, or whatever else it might be, and those same limitations can be put into place overnight on something that you might need more of than what you're allowed to buy. This could happen to anything, okay? Now, building more manufacturing plants in America sounds like a great idea, but it's not an immediate fix, and it's not something that happens very quickly. In order to get everything built and put into production and have efficiency levels to where they can actually meet demand, it's going to take years. So this isn't a good solution, but it's just all they have at this point in time. Keep that in mind as well, because if you want to apply that to any other factor of preparedness, the same scenario exists where years are the answer apparently. Now, moving on from there, what else can help fix this problem? Well, according to an article I read, FDA regulation, more FDA guidelines are going to be required, which you and I both know will slow things down, but at the same time, their reasoning for it is because of quality control and making sure that these new suppliers who suddenly show up out of the shadows actually have to maintain some level of quality and maintain some level of standards before they just start giving people things that are very important, like baby formula. Yet this happens all the time whenever there's a huge demand and a low supply. Think about what happened with hand sanitizer just a couple years ago. Suddenly everyone was making it, but what was the real standard of how effective it had to be? There was not much regulation. Now, was there? And who knows if some of that hand sanitizer might have, I don't know, burned people's skin, caused irritation, all those things. You can apply the same logic to ammunition. During the shortage, which is still going on in many ways, a lot of new suppliers suddenly showed up out of the woodwork. But is that ammunition quality? Is it corrosive? Is it bad for your firearm? Is it going to cause a catastrophic failure? These are all things that they want to regulate, which does make sense in the sense of quality control, but then also takes more time and keeps new suppliers out of the game for longer. So, at the end of the day, no matter what you apply this logic to, especially based on the fact that baby formula is super important, it's critical to survival for certain parts of our population, right? A part of our population that I think we all find to be very valuable. Well, in that scenario, apply it to anything else that's extremely important to preparedness, and the same thing can occur, and the only answers anybody has for it is years. We need years in order to accomplish this. We need years in order to meet demand. We need years to build new factories and to get FDA approval. All those things are all they have to work with at this point in time. So anything you need and anything you rely on to survive, you might want to make sure you have more of it before it either completely runs out because of one additional item, one additional factor that basically says suddenly this is gone off the shelves, and before somebody like the FDA decides you can only buy 2, 10, or whatever the limit might be of it, and before the only answer is years out. This is what you should be learning from these situations. Yes, the baby formula shortage is a tragedy, and I don't want to experience something like that ever in my lifetime where I don't have the ability to feed my children. But some families here in the United States are experiencing that right this second. And the level of desperation you're hearing from these families is terrible. They're going hours out of their way to try to find formula at different stores they haven't tried yet. They can't order anything online. Their orders are all being canceled. And you can think that that exact same scenario could happen to anything else. It doesn't have to just be baby formula. Anything we rely on, all it takes is that one more factor and it's suddenly off the market. So this is just a reminder that you have to pay attention to what's happening out there, and just because you're not personally affected by something like baby formula doesn't mean that this whole concept might not be important for you to study and make realizations about. So I wanted to bring this to your attention, and I just wanted everyone to know that this is something we should be watching, and this is something that we should be hoping gets resolved quickly, because the answers that are being put out there are not quick, and the families who need that stuff need it right now.